click, do that. Sounds like X-Play, to be honest. X-Play? It could be X-Play. I could see that. G4 had a lot of stuff going on. Like, a lot. You know what I don't miss? I don't miss X-Play, like, yeah, X-Play reviews. And the review scores that came with them. Like, some of those review scores for certain games definitely made me go, why? Like, why even bother if you were going to half-ass this review? Speaking of, Xavier Woods from WWE, The New Day, he actually is part of the G4 revival, which is funny because one of his goals in life apparently is to host Nick Arcade. He wants to create a revival of Nick Arcade and he wants to be the host. And I'm like, Xavier Woods would actually be pretty good for that. I think he would. You hated Adam's reviews from X-Play? He was so biased towards Japanese games. Remember him giving every Mega Man Battle Network game a bad score. Wouldn't that be biased against them? Like, but that's to the point though. Like, Mega Man Battle Network games were nice. I like them at least. Although, weirdly enough, like my favorite one was actually the platformer on GameCube. I love that one a ton. Network transmission. Um, Mega Man Network Transmission was really cool. I love the music. I loved the fact that they actually used the they actually used some what do you call them? Bumps. Like bumps that they used from the show, from the anime in the game. That's really cool. That's actually really cool. Adam also hated RPGs like Suikoden 3 and Tales games, etc., etc. Yeah, see. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Like, I've never played a Suikoden game. My roommate loves them, and he highly recommends them. He still wants me to play a particular one, right? But I've never played one. I've never played one. Yeah, you missed Devil May Cry 1. Did that from start to finish. One shot through. So that was a thing. Tomorrow's Devil May Cry 2. I'll be doing it with Trish to make it a little more bearable because Trish and Lucia are the only things that make that game kind of playable. So, that's something to tune in for. R.I.P. Lucia. Yeah, she's definitely not coming back, and that is saddening. It's like, she was a cool character. and they just she just got slid back into the ether. Lucia is cool, but her VA is it ain't it. Yeah, I mean, we didn't slide into early Resident Evil voice acting, right? It's not quite that bad. They didn't just grab her off the street, so that's a thing, right? Um, it was iffy, but the whole game was iffy. Early Resident Evil VA work is art. Mm, okay, it stretches into that territory of being bad enough to be funny, right? Which, loops into being so bad it's good. Right? It delivers a type of charm, kind of like the original voice acting work for Castlevania Symphony of the Night. At least Onimusha 1's VA is somewhat decent. I haven't played enough of Onimusha 1 to remember. The main Onimusha that I've played the most of is Onimusha Blade Warriors. I love that game. I love that game a lot. Um, I honestly kind of wish like it would catch a re-release with like decent online play. It would be fun. Early Resident Evil VA work is art. Onimusha is lit, praying for Capcom to do an HD collection of all 5 games. It would be cool. It would definitely be cool. Um, I think we only have like one Onimusha game on PS4 right now. I think, and that's it. We don't have anything else right now. And I hear that it's an iffy port, not the best. Capcom is in that era of what era is Capcom in? Remember this? Yeah, yeah. Though I think to an extent the world is in that kind of era right now because nostalgia is really strong right now for a lot of people. They want so much to bring up things from the past and revive them or revise them and cash in on that nostalgia. And we see it so many different places. Um, Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's much more in your face, but like it's definitely something to notice, something to talk about because yeah, I mean even the new Mortal Kombat movie has, you know, a remake of the original theme from, the 1995 movie to back it. Like, if they bring Mega Man X back, I want a continuation of where X8 left off. But you fear they'd make a game with the SNES visuals. Sigma's the villain, and it's remember Mega Man X1? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Freaking Mega Man X8, the way that game left off, it begs for a sequel. It does. And I think it would be cool to see it, right? But the X series has a spotty history when it comes to development and just the way things go with the directions the series has gone, the creators and everything like that. It's all over the place. So chances of us seeing it, especially now with like certain people not being in the company anymore and stuff, not great. Let's see. Have I noticed? What have I? Let's see. See, true. I feel sometimes nostalgia pimping kind of stifles innovation and new stuff. If X9 is made, I would trust Inti Creates to do it. Inti Creates would be a good choice. Still sad Legends got left in cliffhanger limbo eternally. Still not over Candy Free. Yeah, Mega Man's never getting off the moon. Mega Man is never getting off the moon. Um, let's see. Have you noticed how after Ono left, Street Fighter V has gotten so much better with the quality of life updates? I haven't been playing Street Fighter V, honestly. Um, I've heard talk. I haven't really like sat down on it since updates and stuff started hitting. So I wouldn't be able to tell you much. Um, I mean, the last thing I heard, Lucia got a load of buffs, like loads of buffs, and I'm just like, that makes me happy because I play that character. I'm fine with this, but outside of that, I'm like, yeah, yeah. The thing that gets me about Capcom, right? While we're on the subject of like how they handle things, I say all the time when I'm like talking to friends about it, right? Is in order for Capcom to do some things that they do, they have to be willing to do work. And they're in this spot right now where they like taking safe bets on most everything. And it makes sense because they're a business. They're a business first, which, especially with the climate of the world right now, it only makes sense, right? But sometimes that leads to some really rocky situations with the people that buy their games, their consumers, because you have, situations where there will be people clamoring for. Let's look at what happened with Darkstalkers. Darkstalkers is a very good example because they released Darkstalkers Resurrection and they were like, we're basically using this as a testing ground to see how people feel, how consumers feel about Darkstalkers as a whole. Depending on how this sells, we'll probably do something with Darkstalkers in the future. And it didn't sell poorly, right? But then they were like, oh, we wanted to sell insert amount of sales numbers, not this. So, like they wanted to basically sell like a AAA game. And you can't ask for that considering what Darkstalkers started out as and turned out being. Like that it's kind of weird. Let's see. Street Fighter V is in this spot, and they're trying to maintain an FGC spot because this era of FGs is the era of anime games. Granblue, Guilty Gear, Dragon Ball Fighters, etc., etc. Darkstalkers is never coming back. Said and done. Um, we're in a weird place of fighting games, right? Because it a lot of fighting games that come out are doing two main things. A, they're trying to be aesthetically pleasing. B, they're trying to be accessible to a lot of people. Um, we see it with so many games, and it creates a divide in the player base. You have the people that don't really want things to be, dulled down, but You have the other side who's thankful for the extra accessibility because, not only does that equate to more potential players as time goes on, there's also the fact that a lot of players are just generally getting older and I don't want to break their hands and fingers doing complicated stuff. Some people legit just feel that way. So, like, they're kind of thankful for it. Um, let's see. Reason being, Darkstalkers is the most abstract Capcom game ever. Current Capcom cannot save it. See, Capcom tried to save it, but the fans thought it was a joke and they didn't pony up when they had the chance. Again, it sold well enough. It's that Capcom turned around and said, well, we want it to sell this much instead of this much. It's like, yeah, it sold well, but can it sell really well? That's what they did. They did the same thing to Mega Man Legends 3 while it was still in development, too, because in Mega Man Legends 3's case, they had people like signing petitions and they kept telling people to like make noise, basically. And it's like, oh, if you get this many signatures, we could present it and, make a case for this because it shows you got a fan base. And it's like, okay, cool. Got that many signatures. Then they were like, now we need this many. Okay, got that many. And now we need this many. And then eventually it just dropped out. And they just kind of let it go. Let's see. People mostly know Felicia and Morgan from Marvel. That's Capcom's fault. That's Capcom's fault entirely. Using the same Morgan sprite for more than a decade. We'll talk about that one. Let's see. You agree. The problem with Capcom, though, is it feels like they have limited or no innovations. Like when you look at Street Fighter 4 in a design space, it's just a mash of all modern mechanics of the time. Street Fighter V only has the trait/drive mechanic from BlazBlue/Arcana Heart, and it feels incomplete because they, as you said, they took a safe bet. Let's see. And then Darkstalkers said, damn, you're bummed you missed out on DMC1. Yeah, I'm sorry. The VOD will be there. That's a thing. I mean, still doing more. You only missed the first game. I'll be doing 2 tomorrow and following up on stuff. So, but yeah, no. Here's the thing, right? Capcom has this weird thing where they'll take systems from already existing games under their own banner and they'll either bring the systems in as they are or they'll slightly tweak them and then put them into their current games and be like, this is a brand new system. It's like, I don't know. I saw this in a prior game that you did. When they brought focus attacks into Street Fighter 4. We already had those in the Street Fighter EX series. Those are already in there. They didn't function the exact same way that they did in Street Fighter 4, but they were there. Yeah. Excel installs. Another thing to consider. With Street Fighter 5, there's V triggers and V skills, right? The V triggers specifically, where it's like, oh, your character goes into a mode or some, stance that dictates a change in how they fight for a temporary amount of time. Darkstalkers was already doing this with the Dark Force system. Dark Force was very much like that because you activate Dark Force and Darkstalkers and your character goes into another mode and they're able to fight a different way or they have some sort of new nuance to what they do. Some characters got armor, some characters went into flight, some characters went into some other mode, something like that. Others still had little things going on, like little orbiting things that help them fight, etc., etc. Yeah, it's the mechanics that they bring into newer games for the most part are very much there. Like V Shift is probably one of the more interesting and intriguing things that they brought in that I can't really pinpoint from something else when I stop and think about it. Let's see. V trigger can be much more than a buff for damage. Let's see. Word focus cancel equals roaming cancel. Let's see. I wish the canceled 3D Capcom All Stars game had some playable version. Same. But you know what is weird about that? Part of the reason that got stuffed from something that I read was that it wasn't enough like Street Fighter, which that's a shame to me. That is a shame to me if that is part of the reason that it got shelved, that they had people like playtesting and stuff and it wasn't enough like Street Fighter to them. Cause it would contribute to Capcom just taking the safe bet, just taking the safe route, right? It would contribute that much more to that. Like if they have to shelve a whole project simply because people said, well, this isn't enough like Street Fighter. I don't know if I can rock with this. So, well, we got issues now, right? Missed the whole thing. Yeah, sorry now, Neki. You are not the only one lamenting this. Ledaxel missed it too, and they want to tune in for future stuff. Let's see, that feels iffy, like not to get a philosophical, what is a Street Fighter feeling? Is it Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Third Strike, ST? All these games are Street Fighter. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, even within the Street Fighter series, right? Street Fighter games are vastly different from each other. They're very different from each other. And, like, for all the nonsense, you can look at each particular game and it's like they took risks back then, especially when they made like Alpha. There was so much different, so much in the way Alpha was made that was different from like the standard Street Fighter stuff, between the isms, air teching, air blocking. There's a lot of stuff that makes the Alpha systems stand out. And true to form, like people didn't immediately take to that. Heck, people didn't immediately take to Third Strike. Third Strike, like Street Fighter 3 as a whole, was too different for people. Like by and large, there were a number of things about Street Fighter 3 though that made people like tilt against it. Um, One of the initial reasons was that they weren't going to have Ryu and Ken in there at first, and people were upset about that because, like, apparently, at least Sean was initially going to be the only Shoto, and people were like, "No, we want Ryu and Ken back. We want Chun back. We want Akuma back." Uh, they got that, so that's how we got, the eventual cast of the Street Fighter 3 games where you got a few familiar faces, but the vast majority are like new generation, thus the title and the theming, the thematical nature of what Street Fighter 3 became. But even with that, the parry system and other things about it rubbed people the wrong way. They felt like this isn't Street Fighter. You know? So that makes me wonder, like, what was the deal with the Capcom All Stars game? for people to be like, this really isn't Street Fighter. What did they do? What was the system like for people to rail against it so hard that Capcom was like, we're just gonna not develop this. Like, I'm legitimately curious. I think I would want to like look into that and figure some stuff out. They had HD cancels. that that would be problematic. Who had a time machine? Cause what? Yeah, but like, yeah, no, like, consider like Street Fighter 3. When people had issues with the characters they were going to have in, or the mechanics of the game, Capcom simply took a step back and said, we're going to add in characters people are familiar with and tweak the rest of the game a bit, but we're not going to stop development. This game is what it is, and we'll just put it out there and see what people think, see how people feel. But Capcom All Stars was something that people just railed against hard. So I'm just like, what did you do? There had to be some really different systems in play. Also, they had some cool character designs for it from everything that I've seen, and I'm just like, I would have liked to have seen how these characters would have played, turned out, stuff like that. Um, the only one we got was Ingrid, and Ingrid in particular is an interesting case to me because I have seen people throw hate in Ingrid's direction for like ages, right? But I'm like, why do people hate this character? This character showed up playable in games that a lot of people wouldn't really have like either touched or had access to for various reasons. Like, not to say that these games were niche, it's like one of them was bad. Capcom Fighting Evolution. That was where she debuted. And the other that she was in was largely on handhelds, the Street Fighter Alpha 3 ports that included her and Yoon and Maki and Eagle. Let's see. They made cross tag before cross tag was cross tag. Ingrid feels like something Capcom wanted to do with Street Fighter in the future. She had these cool sounding names like Code Holder. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like, it's like you send all this hate in Ingrid's direction, but we don't know anything about the character. Like, what? What? Why? Let's see. Maybe it could be a combination of things in this era. Capcom was bumping the Street Fighter 3 series, which is a very radical game, as you stated. We had the EX series, another distinct Street Fighter game. Capcom vs. SNK 2. Maybe, this is just a theory. A lot of old heads felt like Capcom wasn't as pure as their older, more simpler designed games. Yeah, I mean, it could be. Yeah, but this was after we got stuff like Rival Schools and Project Justice too, and those are very different. Let's see. Ingrid's only been in one game. Do people really dismiss CVS 1 like it never happened? Let's see. Think it's a better looking game than CVS 2. CVS 1 had some really cool visual stuff, like in regards to UI, in regards to stages, especially stage intros. The stage intros in CVS 1 are crazy good, right? Um, and it's kind of a shame that we didn't have that return in CVS 2. Um, Stages in CVS 2 were neat in some ways, but no stage intros. So it's like, eh. Stage intros in CVS 1 are godlike. CVS 2 stages are just like MVC 2 stages. That's why I said they're good in some ways. They're neat in some ways, right? Visually they look nice in general, and they use a lot of effects and whatnot that we saw in the way stages were handled in MVC2, as noted. But in general, like, there was just a lot more overall passion that went into the stages and stuff in CVS 1. So it's an interesting thing. SVC is the game you play when you want to do an infinite. You're not wrong. People bag on SVC Chaos, but like I like that game. I like that game a lot. Um, it's one of the few games where we actually got to play as Tessa, and I love that character. I love her design. I love her just general attitude. I love the way she played. She was fun, and I felt like the game was fine. I think it was like blowing anybody out of the water, but it was fine. They added Jubei's costume in Street Fighter V, and it fits Ibuki perfectly. Wait, when you say Jubei, are we talking Onimusha? Jubei Yagi. Uh, yeah, Onimusha. Onimusha, yeah, that's what I thought. Jubei from Oni 5 or Jubei from Oni 2? Dawn of Dreams. Hmm, okay. Huh? I mean, interesting decision. That'd be something to look into. I'll definitely check that out. Like, I was trying to like back my brain when I heard, saw Jubei. I'm like, wait, Jubei. I'm like, where are we talking with Jubei? Like, now there are so many Jubeis now, and it's like, let's see. Great game, multiple characters. We saw it. Let's see. Yeah, multiplayer and Bloody Palace. Co-op Bloody Palace. Uh, every time I consider anything about a co-op Bloody Palace, I think about the disappointment that comes from the fact that Devil May Cry 5 has one of the wackest co-op based systems, like for a game of that nature, right? I am not a fan of that at all. And I remember a friend of mine like getting extra hyped, just because like before the game dropped, there's like they saw a note that was like, oh, it's going to have co-op, and I'm like, I don't have a good feeling about this. I don't have a good feeling about this. And then the description came out, and the description basically stated that you didn't have like co-op where you could invite people, or there wasn't a set mode, and I'm like, what are they doing? And then they finally just unveiled it, and it's this weird thing where it's like in specific levels you can have a random person be like a partner character in that stage. It's literally a random person, right? There's no inviting anybody. And on the chance that like you don't have a random person, they'll give you a ghost of one of the programmers. It'll just come up on the side of the screen. It's like starring the DMC crew, and it's just a ghost of one of the programmers, right? So it it's limited in the worst way, and there's nothing that actually like pushes the concept of the co-op would be worth doing, which in turn has made people create mods for the PC Devil May Cry games to have uh co-op in those. And those are pretty insane because we have stuff like 4 and 5 player co-op in Devil May Cry 4 on PC because of nonsense that people have done with mods. And I'm like, you guys, all of you are out of your minds. You're all insane. But I wish, I so wish that we could have like legitimate online co-op in a Devil May Cry. It would be so nice. Great combo videos for those mods though. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. You're so sad about the DMC5 co-op. Same. Yeah, Tempest. Hey, Tempest, say yeah, I'm crazy. So look, I'm just saying that it you could very easily like it would be easy to get lost in the chaos of a 5 player co-op like thing that mod like pushes forward. It can get really nutty. The amount of ideas you had in your head and then everything just died. Exactly. Exactly. I was the same way now, Nikki. I was like, oh wow, the possibility of co-op, right? But thinking about the concept, I was just like, this isn't going to be a thing. I said I had a bad feeling about it from the get-go, right? And it didn't stop me from just considering the concept, because I'm just like, I could ask someone to play maybe if there's co-op where you can invite people and stuff like that, but that wasn't the case. So yeah, it eh, it's a bit rough. It was a bit rough. Yeah, I wish it would have just been an actual thing. I think that pretty much rounds that out. Uh, in any case, though, let's see. Didn't help that people found stuff for co-op Bloody Palace and then switched to MC3 got style switcher and local co-op BP. Yep, yeah, yeah. Freaking local co-op Bloody Palace for Devil May Cry 3 on Switch. On Switch. The system that has shown that it has like issues with performance on various games by default. And they're like, we're gonna make Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition for the Switch that has local co-op Bloody Palace. I was like, I get it. You know, they have to have something to sell it, basically. They've sold Devil May Cry 3 a lot. They need something to actually push the game forward if they're gonna put it out there again. They can't Resident Evil 4 this. Could you imagine Claw holding a Switch controller? No. No, no, no. I can't do that. Thinking about that hurts my hands. Nitos, how's it going? Between the exploits between DMC3 and DMC4, it's hard to tell which is more broken. Good boy, Nitos. Yeah. Yeah, sadly, Nitos, you missed it. you missed. Everybody's tuning in at the end. It's weird. Maybe I should start Devil May Cry 2 a little later in the day, considering. Please, streamer, stream a little longer. Well, I mean, I've done Devil May Cry 1 already. That's done. And that was the only Devil May Cry I planned to do. So, there is that. Today. This is a holdup. You're not allowed to leave. mean, that I don't know. I don't know what I would do. You know, I mean, I could do a playthrough of like Castlevania Symphony of the Night or something. Yeah, something that I know would be fairly quick. It would barely take me an hour. Double back and do a randomizer for Bloodstained or something. I don't know if it's really a thing. Let's see, like in DMC4, Flying Royal Guard, DMC3, you got the dive kick exploit, and almost every Virgil combo. Virgil in general, right? Regardless of the DMC game he is in, is really, really good. Yes, now Nikki. Bloodstained has a randomizer mode. Um, randomizer and Bloodstained is interesting because, yeah, um, you can choose your perimeters for the randomizer, like where certain things will spawn and stuff like that. Of course, this pertains to key items as well as like shards and stuff that you get for progression. You could get like literal end game shards and weapons in like the first few rooms if you're lucky enough. So like it gets real nutty. Um, but I mean, nature of a randomizer, right? Bloodstain is a roguelike now. See, here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing about that. Bloodstained was initially supposed to have a roguelike mode, and they couldn't actually implement the roguelike mode in the system that they were making the game in. So their compromise for not being able to make the roguelike mode was actually to make the randomizer. And like, you know what? That actually makes sense. This is fine. I'm fine with this. This is cool. It's the next best thing. Because having, randomized castle rooms and stuff, I think would have been interesting, but also terrifying because consider going from one room to the next and being suddenly in like an end game area with like early game gear because you haven't been able to get anything. You can't progress depending on what happens, and yeah, it's rough. It would be very rough. um yeah, yeah. Randomizers are your absolute favorite thing in recent anything. Randomizers are fun. They're fun. Time to be that one player that levels to 99 in the beginning room. Oof. Depending on the game, I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. Might have to think that one over. Let's see. Honestly, it enhances the experience and gives them data if they decide to do it to make a sequel. They have the data to see how to randomize drops, etc., etc. Yeah, and they actually did have to tweak the randomizer a couple of times because so many things could be randomized, and that included things like shop stuff and item creation, like what you need to make certain items and stuff like that. And sometimes you would need specific items to make other items. But if you can't get those drops because, say, a monster in an in-game area that you can't access is what drops that item, because the drops have been randomized as well, the drop tables have been randomized, well, you can't progress. So that was definitely something that they needed to adjust. A lot of fixes for bad seeds and stuff like that. That needed to be done. But yeah, you're right. It's good for them to amass data and stuff like that, so that if they want to do anything of the sort in the future, they kind of know what to do now. It'd be cool. It'd be very cool. Yeah. All that said, here's the question. Since Devil May Cry 1 is indeed done, and we'll be doing Devil May Cry 2 tomorrow, and people are requesting that I stick around, which, surprise to me. Uh, of the options presented, between Symphony of the Night and the Bloodstained randomizer. Which would the chat like to see? DMC2 preview before I go. Nah, we'll hold on to DMC2 till tomorrow. Dante has already attempted to fill someone's dark soul with light. I think we're good. We hit our quota for today. We're good. Appreciate that now, Neki. And Lit Axel. You gotta vote for the Bloodstained randomizer. Down to watch whatever. Or you don't want to get off. Either or, I mean. No, it's just I'm kind of slightly taken aback. This is literally the first time I've had like people in chat basically saying, "Hey, don't leave." That's a literal first for me. So that Bloodstained randomizer though, we're we can do that. We can do that. I haven't done one in a while, and I don't know whether or not, you know, it's going to crash on me or anything. So we can do that. We can take a chance on that. So